Check. 1, 2, 3. Welcome back to The Bro Show. Once again, I'm going to say, we're going to change the name. We're going to work on it. It's a little bit too close to Ryan Long's The Boys cast. Or there's some other guy who, I think it's two gay guys that have, The Bro Show as their name. It's like The Bro Show with so-and-so and so-and-so. So we're gonna change it, but right now I have way more other things. I got too many other things to worry about than the name. But today, this episode is entitled Adventures in Teenage Rehab. Those of you who know me personally will know that when I was 15 years old, I was sent to a teenage rehab center, but it was kind of a scam. We're gonna walk through this. This is gonna be an interesting episode. I was sent there when I was 15 years old, against my will, by my parents, my very lovely religious parents, who I love dearly. I love them dearly. But at this time, there was a lot of friction in the household. I was a bit of a rambunctious. I was a little shit. I was not an easy kid to raise. So they sent me to this program for teenagers with substance abuse problems, emotional problems. It was kind of a daycare center for parents with money. Now, my parents didn't have a ton of money at that time. I think they had to put up a second mortgage on their house to send me there, which is kind of fucked up. Shows you the kind of state I put them in, that they would spend this much. I think it was like 10 grand a month. It was fucking major. Anyway, so they sent me to this place. What was funny is they didn't tell me that I was going, because if you're 15 years old and you're like, hey, you're going to be sent off to a place where you're going to be monitored 24/7 and have zero freedom for the next 6 months, you're probably going to be like, hey, go fuck yourself. Which was kind of why I got sent there, because I had kind of, eventually as a teenager, sometimes you hit a point, because when you're a kid, you think your parents are God, right? And you have to listen to everything they say. But eventually in your teenage years, you do eventually hit a point where you go, wait a minute, if I just tell them to fuck off, I can kind of do whatever I want. And I think I had hit that point. And I had a lot of emotional problems at that time. I used to cut myself with razor blades. At one point, I cut myself and wrote "fuck you" on the wall in my blood. So, this is a little defense of my parents of why they did something this drastic. I was a nightmare. I was a nightmare of a child. That being said, they weren't perfect either. They were very religious, and I had to follow their religious rules, which I still think is unfair. Just because you're religious doesn't mean your kids have to be religious. But that being said, it was their household. You know what I mean? I didn't respect the rules, so they fucking sent me off to teenage rehab. Now, how they got me there was kind of funny. They told me we were going on a skiing trip, and then we drove 6 hours to Kelowna. And they said, hey, I know, you're having some emotional problems lately. So we've brought you here. Before we go skiing, you're going to talk with a counselor, talk about some of your emotional problems. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So I go in, talk to this woman. She seems nice. She says, hey, let's go for coffee. I was like, all right. Get in the car. Woman's nice, pretty blonde lady. Nothing seems out of the ordinary yet. Then after we get the coffee, this woman drops the bomb. Okay, so you've actually been dropped off at a place called Venture Academy. It's a place for young people like yourselves to get help, and you're going to be here for a month or 6 or a year. And I was like, whoa, what? Back the fuck up. Wait. My parents just dumped me off here? I was like, what are you talking about? I have a circus show coming up in a few months. No, they didn't fucking lie to me. My parents are Christian. They would never lie to me. It's like, I hated my parents so much, but I still believed that they wouldn't lie to me. Which is fucking hilarious. My dad still says it's one of the hardest things he ever did, dropping me off there and lying to get me there. I was not happy. Started yelling, screaming. I didn't get violent, but I was very unhappy. Very unhappy. So after they let me know that this is what's going on, they say, okay, so how the program works is you stay with a family at night, and then during the day, the family takes you to the teenage rehab place where you socialize with the other kids, do your schoolwork, get your counseling, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. It felt like a nightmare. As a 15-year-old, it's a nightmare. Now, at this place, you cannot go to the bathroom. You cannot go for a walk. You cannot go to the store. You have zero freedom. You are being watched 24/7. And this was now my new reality. I remember waking up in the morning hoping it was a terrible dream. Waking up being like, no, fuck, I'm still here. But I met some very interesting people at this place, as you would. I didn't actually do a lot of drugs when my parents sent me there. A lot of the kids there were there for drug use. I, at that time, was kind of a little circus hippie. I only smoked weed. That's about it. And I had no desire to do anything else. I thought cigarettes were stupid. I hadn't even been drunk yet at that point, I don't think. I know, I hadn't drank. I was just a little stoner fucking hippie kid. And here's some advice. If you ever want your kid, if you're ever worried about your child's drug use, probably the worst thing you could do is send him to a program where the only thing he can do for 6 months is hang out and socialize and just take in the ideas of a bunch of other kids that do a lot of drugs. All the drugs, The kids I was living with at the house I stayed in, some of them had done heroin. Most of them were on oxys, cocaine, the whole 9 yards. So when I left the program 6 months later, I had a ton of new ideas about what fun was. That being said, the program was really good for me. I learned a lot there. It was good because it took me out of the home environment I was in with my parents. It took me out of a religious home, put me into a non-religious home where I was able to figure out that I wasn't as crazy as I was being told I was. Because a lot of it stemmed from conflict with my parents who were religious and me not. I was also a fucked up kid, but I didn't have these same emotional problems when I was at this program. Anyways, let's go over some of the interesting people we met there. Now, I am still friends with some of these people. This was about a decade ago or 11 years ago. So if you're a Venture Academy kid, welcome to the podcast. You might get a shout out on this. I recorded this once and then I tried to record it while not saying names, but I kind of don't give a fuck. So I'm just going to say names. I could get sued, but like what? What are you going to take away my CRB? Like, dude, I have nothing. A year ago, you could have sued me and gotten something, but my savings have been fucking decimated, so I don't give a fuck. Now, who I really want to talk about is the family that I stayed with. Very interesting family that worked for this place. There was this woman named Candy who was fucking great, a very overweight woman. I believe she's American. She was a lovely woman, really great. Smoked a lot of cigarettes, was very fat, but also just like very understanding, nurturing soul. Very good woman. Kind of reminds me of my mom, but without the religion, so we were able to get along a little bit better. Because like where me and my mom divide on a lot of things is religion. And she had a husband named Al. Now, Al was an interesting dude. He was like head of a construction worker. I think he made very good money. And it dawned on me a couple of years ago, the dude was a total fucking racist. I didn't put this together. I remember sitting there and Al just looks over at me once and goes, if my daughter ever dated a black man, I would disown her. And just walked off. And Candy turned to me and was like, yeah, Al doesn't believe in the mixing of the races. I was like, Jesus, fuck. Really? I mean, at 15, actually, you know what? You know what's really fucked up? My first thought as a 15-year-old was like, that's weird. I mean, it was like years later that I was like, dude was a fucking white supremacist. And he would always make like racist jokes and stuff, but not really jokes, like a little bit more sinister. And this family was interesting. So they had two sons, one named Wilson, who was, I think, 27. He had a kid who would come over quite often, who I really liked playing with. And then they had a gay son as well, who was 22, named Tate. And he would come over all the time and hang out with us. Of course, he was 20. A young 20-year-old gay kid come over and hang out with us. Of course he would. So that's how this program ran. At night, you'd be with this family. They were your family. You stayed with them. I lived with them for 6 months straight. And then during the day, you would go home to the rehab center. Now, I remember my first day there, and I was like, I knew that I was not that fucked up on my first day because a kid who was there because of video game and rage addiction got so mad that he was not allowed to play World of Warcraft that he was there, that he picked up a water cooler and threw it across the room, pulled the fire alarm, and then punched a hole in the wall. This big fucking fat kid named Matt. I wonder how this guy's doing. Fuck, Matt, if you watch this, give me a shout out, buddy. Let me know you're still alive. And that was my first day where I was like, wow, these kids are fucked. I'm going to be fine. And what was interesting about the program, it was mixed with guys and girls. So, like, you did get to hang out with women while you're there, which was sweet, because some of the girls were hot, you know? Like, teenagers with behavioral issues is not exclusive to teenage boys. A lot of hot fucking teenage girls, I was a teenager at the time, were also there with me. And I actually changed this program forever. Forever. I have legendary status at this school because I started dating a girl while I was there. I was 15. I think she was the same age as me. And we ended up going on an outing. There were certain days where they would take all of us out on outings. So they took us to the beach. And me and her snuck into the bathroom and had sex. And which was great, right? But here's the thing. I was such a fucking moron teenager that what do you do when you're a teenager and you have sex? You fucking tell everyone, right? You don't understand the nuance yet of like, hey, keep your fucking mouth shut when you're breaking the rules. I told everybody, okay? Everybody. And of course it gets back to the program. It's this big problem. Then my parents find out, and then it's a major problem because nothing worse than sex before marriage as a Christian. And what did they do? They separated the guys and girls in the program forever because of this guy. Because I got laid in a fucking, what would have been May, June, July of 2010 or 2011 or whatever the fuck it was. I went back and visited the place like 8 years later, and I walked in and I talked to the kid, and he was like, yo, are you, I was like, hey, my name's Quinn. He's like, Quinn? I know you. Fuck you. Your dick ruined this whole program. The legend lives on. The legend lives on. So I ruined teenage rehab for generations of fucked up children. But I met a lot of interesting kids here. And what was really good about it is it kind of let me know how good I had it as a human being. Because when you're a teenager, you kind of think your life sucks, even when it doesn't, you know? My tiny problems seemed like the biggest problems in the world, but I'll never forget this kid named Tyson, who I lived with. He was around 13, 14 years old. This kid had been through hell. Tyson, he wasn't one of these rich kids that had been sent here. I believe the province, if you're American, province is the state. The state paid for him to go because both of his parents had died. I believe his dad was either dead or wasn't in the picture, but his mom got cancer when he was like 11 or 12 and then was like dead within the year. And he watched his mom just like slowly wither away and die at like 12 years old. And then he went and moved in with his grandparents. And then I believe one or both of his grandparents also died. And then his dog died while he was in the program. This kid was 14 years old and had seen more death than anyone I had ever met. And yeah, this kid was fucked. And I'm pretty sure he's still fucked to this day. Shit, man. And, it brought me a lot of perspective. That was the big value of this program to me, was nothing gives you perspective on how fucked you really are than meeting some people who are truly fucked. Especially when it's of no fault of their own. You know? This kid was fucked up, man. Like, he couldn't even lose a game of Monopoly. Like, if we were at the house, we were trying to play Monopoly and he was losing, he would freak the fuck out and flip the table over. You know? This kid was fucked. He was kind of a sociopath, too, though. He fucking broke into my room and snapped my Green Day CD in half. Fucking cunt. Anyways, I still have lots of love for the guy. Yeah, Tyson was his name. I hope he's doing well. Last I heard, he was a meth head junkie. Reach out to me, Tyson, if you end up listening to this. And then there was also this guy named Joe who was there, lived at the house with me as well. He was there for being addicted to opiates. And he was 17, so a bit older. And he actually helped me a lot with getting over my self-harm addiction that I had. He's actually the one that got me smoking, which I'm now still dealing with a decade later. But I remember, because I was there because I cut myself, and I remember Joe said to me, he was like, listen, cutting yourself freaks people out. He hands me a cigarette. He goes, this isn't much better for you, but it's way more socially accepted than cutting yourself. I took a hit. Never cut myself ever again. So, thank you, Joe. Fucking good dude. Good dude. I think he's still fucked up too, though. Joe was an interesting one. Me, Joe, and Tyson were the kids I lived with longest. We developed a bond like brothers in war. You know, when you're under this kind of, when you're a teenager and all your freedoms have been taken away from you, it's kind of like being in lockdown with someone. You know, it was almost like our Vietnam, you know, going from like free teenagers to like no freedom at all. So what we did is we actually took cigarettes and we burned ourselves on each hand so that we'd always remember each other. Now, I don't know if you can see it now. I'll probably just show a picture in post. But I have, 10 years later, I still have a cigarette burn there and here. This one Joe gave to me, and this one Tyson gave to me. And I gave them one each as well, which I thought was fucking dope, and I still think it's dope. I still think it's dope. I can look at my hands and remember that time of my life, even though it was so long ago. My parents were very unhappy when they found out about this. My parents were not happy with this program, because another thing that happened in the program that was good for me is the program kind of realized, like, I wasn't the worst kid that they had there. They put me in the house for the most fucked up kids because the way my parents had described them to me, they described me like a demon child, you know, like he cuts himself and writes "fuck you" on the, like, you know what I mean? Like, but so I looked like probably the worst kid they'd ever had. But once I got there, and that conflict that I had with my parents was removed from my life, I didn't have these same crazy emotional problems. I was still like a bit defiant and, you know, like didn't follow the rules, but I wasn't like the monster I had been painted as. So I was in the house for all the fucked up kids. And apparently after the first month, I didn't find out about this until way later when I went to go visit this woman and she told me. Apparently, like, after the first month, they were like, dude, pack your bags, you're going home. We don't think you need this program. You know, you don't seem to have the emotional problems that, you know, we thought you did upon intaking you. And apparently my mom was like, no, he's faking. We want him there longer. Now, to be fair to my parents, I had put them through hell. So they just needed time to regroup and figure out who the fuck they were, because I was a nightmare of a kid to raise as a Christian parent. I don't think I would have been that bad under parents who weren't religious, but that's my bias, right? I'm me. So, anyways, this program was good because the counselors were kind of on my side a little bit at times, you know, like they were like, okay, your parents obviously have found out that you had sex. They're very upset. Your mom's very angry. We don't think what you did was awful because you're a teenager and it's kind of normal to have sex, but your parents are very upset. Now, my mom, when my mom tells the story, she was like, no, they said to us, we are disgusted with this type of behavior. They had sex in a bathroom like animals. We are shocked. I'm like, yeah, Mom, of course they're going to say that to you. You're paying them $10,000 a month to fix me. They have to, you know, ever heard of the customer's always right? Of course they're going to say that to you. But they weren't religious programs. So to me, they were like, hey, listen, you lost some privileges. You shouldn't have done this. I mean, obviously you would do this. You're a teenage boy, but fuck, man, did you wear a condom? And I was like, yeah. They're like, okay, thank God. They're like, we don't need a venture, baby. But yeah, man, it was a very interesting program. A lot of interesting things happened. I like telling the story on camera because I'm also like remembering things as I'm telling these stories. And the people there, oh man, you want to know something fucked up? A lot of the people that... Fuck, now I'm remembering all the people I know there that died. Shit. So I want to give like a quick shout out to my buddy KP, Kevin Perry, who overdosed a few months ago on fentanyl or ketamine. Ah, fuck. Now I'm going to cry. Shit. So yeah, KP is a kid I knew from Venture, and he was one of the few kids that I stayed in contact with over the years from the program, because he was like, he wasn't that fucked, you know what I mean? He was kind of, he was a recreational user of drugs, but he didn't have junkie vibes as far as I could tell, while in Venture or after. And he was the most talented fucking kid I ever met in my life. This kid just was like, I think he was like 16 at the time, and just was like the best guitarist I'd ever met. 16 years old, just shredding, like doing like amazing solos and shit. He was also very funny. You know what I mean? Like, there was a girl there that had a crush on him, and he had a crush on her, but she kind of just like didn't really want to make a move, and he would just come up to her every day and be like, "Hey, Jessica, are we gonna bang today?" She'd be like, "No, Kevin, we're not gonna bang today." He's like, "Okay, well, let me know if you want to bang." And she loved it. Like, it was hilarious. It was so funny. Like, just his timing and ability to read social situations was impeccable. Like, the guy was fucking hilarious. And I remember he would troll the counselors too. Like, there was this bald guy named Brock who was one of the counselors, and he'd just be like, "Brock, you think you're cock of the walk, but you know what, Brock? You are cock of nothing." Just so random and ridiculous, but fucking hilarious kid. Anyway, he OD'd on fucking, I think he was doing ketamine at a party and died of a fentanyl overdose like August of this year. July or August. So fucking rest in peace, Kevin Perry. Even more sad is his mom reached out to me because I posted a status just like saying rest in peace to Kevin. And his mom saw it, and she added me on Facebook and sent me a message and said that she really appreciated the words I had to say about Kevin. So I don't know if she listens to this. Probably not, but Glennis, if you do, Glennis Perry, if you do, you had a fucking dope kid, and I'm sorry for what you went through. He was truly one of the greatest people I met at that program, and it was cool because I kept in contact with him because he was a musician. I'm in the arts, and he would do street performing with his guitar, and he made good money. You know what I mean? So yeah, fucking rough, man. So KP is one of those that died. Another person who I'll get to who died was my friend Taylor Toller. Fuck, dude. All the people I kept in contact with there fucking died. Taylor was also, I think, from BC, and she was there for like light drug use and some emotional problems, and she was just an absolute sweetheart. And when she moved to Vancouver, we hung out and shit, and she was murdered by her boyfriend 2 years ago. Stabbed to death. Let's see if I can pull it up here. This one like really got me by surprise. It was really fucked up because I never actually met the boyfriend, but I was going to. So here's the article here. Family of Taylor Toller allegedly killed by boyfriend said she was admired and loved. So yeah, this is a friend of mine, someone who I knew. She was actually one of the few Venture kids who I hung out with in person after the program ended. We'll get to a happier. Taylor's boyfriend, Dustin, 25, has been charged with second-degree murder in her death. It is also accused of killing his mother and stepfather. All three bodies were found on Tuesday at two separate locations. Cause of death has not been made public. Fuck, man. So I guess this is the stepdad, that's the mom, and this is him, man. Fuck. I almost met this guy. I didn't. It's fucked up because I hung out with her and her friend and everything was great. And then she started like texting me, asking me to, like, if I knew where to get coke and shit. And I was just like very not on that shit at the time. So I kind of didn't respond and kind of ghosted her a little bit. And now she's dead, which is kind of fucked. But yeah, rest in peace, Taylor. Shit, man. The world is a rough place. World is a very rough place. It's interesting bringing up. I actually didn't think I would get emotional recording this, but bringing this up now, just the fact that KP dying really brings me to tears. But I feel like overdosing is like, it's an awful way to go. But being murdered by your boyfriend is a fucking terrifying way to go. fuck, dude. Look at this guy. I almost met this guy, bailed on them, and fuck. You always wonder, like, could I have done anything? Obviously, I couldn't have. Obviously not. Like, what am I going to do? Stop him from murdering? Like, fuck, dude. Anyways, Taylor was someone I met kind of more at the tail end of my time in Venture. When I was kind of like an OG, had been there for like 4 months. I spent 6 months at this program. But she was one of the sweeter people that I'd met at this program. And I remember like a journalist reaching out to me because she knew that I knew her. And I like wanted to like have the scoop, wanted the scoop. Of course, I told her to fuck off, as I always do with journalists because they're fucking scumbags. But yeah, rest in peace, Taylor and KP. And yeah, a lot of very interesting kids that we hung out with and met there. I remember there was this one kid named Jameson, and fuck, some of these kids I had on Facebook, but they've just like fallen off the map. This kid was like 6'5", and he was 16 and a total emo. He had like long emo hair, and he just like, I'd walk in, he'd just be hunched in the corner. He had like a really deep voice. He'd just be like, "Hey Quinn, how's it going?" We used to love to fuck with the counselors there. I remember one day we all watched Fight Club. And what we did was like whenever the counselors would walk in the room, we'd just start chanting, "His name was Robert Paulson. His name was Robert Paulson." From the movie when the guy dies. And like all 10 of us were just chanting, "His name was Robert Paulson." The counselors were like, "Okay, enough." And we'd be like, "His name is Robert Paulson." They're like, "Okay, no, his name was Robert Paulson." We were just screaming. We'd be like, "Shut the fuck up." There was nothing better as a teenager than driving an adult to the brink of insanity. Really, that was the like whenever there's someone who has authority over you, the best part of your life, the most solace you could find is driving that person to the brink of insanity. Fucking great. But yeah, I spent 6 months in this program, and it was kind of funny because when I got back, so as far as all of my friends were concerned, I just fucking disappeared. My parents told no one I was leaving. So I was there at school, and then one day I was fucking gone for 6 months straight. So when I went back to high school, there was like rumors that I had like gone to juvie and shit, and all the fucking like wannabe gangster kids like really respected me when I got back. These kids that I used to have beef with that wanted to jump me were just like, "Yo, respect. I heard you went away." And I was just like, "Yeah, bro." I think that kid I'm literally talking about is now a homeless crackhead on the street. I've known a lot of fuck-ups, man. I truly am grateful I never became one of them, but I've always struggled with substance abuse, but I've never been an addict because there's a difference between like likes to escape reality from time to time and needs to escape reality all the time. There's a very big difference. And I've always been on this side. I'm a little bit more adventurous. I like to see where drugs take me. Oh, let's go here. But at the end of the day, I always understood the value of hard work and having to get up and go and make your life happen. Whereas junkies, I think, and please don't take this the wrong way if you are someone who struggles with addiction, me calling you a junkie. We'll say addicts, okay? Addicts are... What I've noticed, because I have a lot of friends who are addicts, they're in so much pain constantly that they need to escape, and they would rather escape for literally days at a time to the point where it destroys their relationships and work life. It's very sad. I'm very lucky that I was never one of those people. I always kind of knew at the end of the day, hey, I had to make something of myself. I always knew at the end of the day, as fun as it was to get fucked up, there was a time to sober up and get to work. And I wish that nuance was taught to more kids. I don't really like this whole, like, all drugs are bad, all drinking is bad, all smoking is bad, because there's way more nuance to that. And I guess I get the argument that like maybe they're not old enough to understand the nuance, so it's kind of just better to discourage it. But for me, it was really like, oh, I was told weed was the devil, and then I smoked weed, realized it wasn't the devil, and then I was like, well, what else are they lying about? Cocaine's probably fine. I bet heroin's fine too. I smoked crack once with a Hells Angels guy. That's a story for another podcast. Anyways, back to teenage rehab. So yeah, I spent 6 months at this program, met a lot of fucking crazy kids, and I really wish that I kept in contact with more of them. The ones I did keep in contact with seem to have passed on, which is very sad. I've got this other friend named Harrison who was there, who is still alive and well. And what was funny, Harrison, And Tyson, the kid I talked about whose whole family died before he was 14, they ran away. Now, this was called going AWOL, which means absence without leave. They just one day said, fuck this, and ran away. And they, at first, because it's very much like, what's the Morgan Freeman movie where they're all in jail? Shawshank Redemption, where you're like sitting around playing cards like, hey, what are you going to do when you get out? What are you going to do once you're free on the other side? Well, man, one day I might just fucking run out of here. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like very much of that, right? And these two crazy cunts did it. They just fucking up and left. And I believe what they did was, like, as soon as they left, they went what's called car hopping. And what it is you literally just walk down a street of parked cars and just pull on every door until you find that one that's unlocked, and then you go in and see if you can find anything. First, they did that. Then they hitchhiked with a dude all the way back to Alberta, BC from Kelowna, which is like 15-hour drive. They hitchhiked all the way back, and they were like on the run and shit. I think one of them didn't hitchhike, and one of them actually, there was a train. So all the kids kind of knew what to do. We all knew how we were supposed to get home if we ever did decide to like go on the run and run away. And there was a train that you could actually hop onto that would take you there. Not like a public train, but like a train that was carrying like coal and supplies and shit. But you could hop onto this train. It would take you back to Alberta. And I believe they did that. Anyways, eventually they did get caught, and they were just hauled back to fucking rehab. And I'll never forget another kid that did this named Dorian. And his parents were very wealthy. Like his parents worked in the oil industry in Saudi Arabia. So his parents treated this program as a glorified babysitting place. Like, he didn't really have any emotional problems. He was like a fun, cool kid, man. And his parents, he told me he fucked his cousin too, which is kind of funny. He told me he was going to run away. And I was like, dude, fuck yeah, man, do it. Because he had a bunch, what they didn't know was he had smuggled a bunch of money in. You're not supposed to have money on you. He had smuggled like $500 or $600 in. And I remember one time, I knew he was going to escape, right? I knew he was going to run off. And he was like in his room, packing up. I'm like, what you doing, man? He's getting ready to go. He puts his backpack on. He stands up and he looks at me. He's like, I'm going to do it, man. I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I believe in you. And I gave him a hug. And I was like, fucking go. He's like, all right. And he ran out the fucking door. And he made it all the way back to Calgary, and then stayed with his girlfriend, and then eventually the police came, and then he was brought back a week later. I saw him a week later, back in the house, like, hey, Darian, good to see you, buddy. How was it? And then, they'd come back and tell you the stories of the outside world and how great it was. The funny thing, I think Harrison and Tyson, when they ran away, I don't think Harrison made it back. I think Harrison was sent to like another program that was like in Utah in the States, where they make you like wander around in the desert for like 4 months until you like figure your shit out. I can't remember, man. Fuck. This is a crazy time. I actually truly am grateful for this time in my life. I learned a lot. Like, you learn a lot hanging out with fucked up people. It's similar to street performing. I think this is where I first realize that I like freaks. I like fucked up people. Like even in the circus world, there's like normies. Like, if you watch my last podcast, you see the people I was arguing with. These are kind of the normies. These are the people that like grew up in really nice, wealthy, encouraging families. They're like, oh, you want to do circus? That's amazing. Here's all the money to do circus. Yeah, you can do it. You know what I mean? Like they never, like, they've had problems, but they've never had like problems. Like, hey, I'm homeless and I'm fucked and I've just been molested. Like, none of the like hardcore problems that some of us have been through. And I can't fucking stand these people for some reason. These people from really well-off families, I just don't jive with them. But the interesting thing about rehab is some of these kids were from well-off families and they were fucked. And that's when I kind of decided, like, I like fucked up people. I don't know why. Those are the people I jive with. If you have not been molested or beaten, we probably can't be friends. Which is a very fucked up thing to say. But I don't know what it is about there's a certain just type of, like, well-off, privileged white liberal that just like really drives me up the fucking wall. A lot of these people tend to come from Australia. All tend to come from the same circus school too. Except for my friend Kiara. I really like her. But yeah, a lot of these people I can't stand. And Cal's cool too. Anyways, I don't know why I'm getting personal on the circus shit. Boy, this is a ramble. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this podcast. I don't know how long I have been recording, but these are my stories from teenage rehab. I'm pretty sure I've got more, but this is just basically a vomit up of information and all the shit that I went through while going to teenage rehab. And yeah, I guess I should talk about like going home. So yeah, I remember at the end of the 6 months there, I had lost a lot of my privileges. So I actually had built up a lot of respect from the program because I was actually one of the better kids. And I was going to like start to get freedoms. And that's what happens there. If you're a good kid, you start to get freedoms. I was going to get a bus pass. I was going to be able to like go train at a gymnastics place. I was going to start to like build a kind of normal-ish life at this program. And then they caught me having sex with my girlfriend. and then the privileges were no more. But I was still a favorite there. I got along with everybody. And the girl who I slept with, who was my girlfriend, I still know her. She's still on my Facebook. She's still doing well. I think she's in Invermere. She's one of the few that like didn't end up getting fucked up. But it's sad, man. A lot of the women tend to be okay. A lot of the men are still quite fucked up. But I'm gonna end this here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was my tales from teenage rehab. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Quinn with the Bro Show. Have a fucking great day and a beautiful life. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Cheers.